Hi guys, welcome to Robin Hood Diaries. As promised, we're going to do Global Sean today, as I've been to 20 countries and so many things have happened in all 20 countries, and I'm not going to keep you here for an hour, so I've got to kind of plow right through this. So it's going to be fun. As promoed, everything that I can squeeze in from the 20 countries that I've been to. Now, some of them are going to be write-offs because we've already talked about them in other shows. Others will have to require their own show so I can get to the good stuff. Okay. Now I am working, I am unscripted, but you guys, I need a list, okay? Because 20, no, sorry, I'm 59 this year. China, when I was 12 in 1978. There, it was amazing. Nixon had just opened up China like a few years before I was there. Chairman Mao had just died. So the country was in complete, not chaos, but kind of a little bit political chaos. I was there with a group of people. I was with the leader of a communist newspaper in Chicago, and it was disguised as a trip of doctors and manufacturers. One said that she made bras for wires for bras, etc., doctors and whatever. We were in there. Our translators were spies. They were planted. I went to little villages, more than one or three, that had never seen white people before. So again, this is early 78. China is going to have to involve its own story. Japan, I have been to Japan. We all know how amazing Japan is. My takeaway, just surface excitement. It's something that it has a Japanese term, which means surface excitement. Well, that is exactly what you get in Japan. Everything from breakfast to cartoons to shopping, fashion district, whatever. It is surface excitement. Okay, Hong Kong. Hong Kong was a real culture shock for me because I had come out of at least a month of mainland China, which again requires its own show because it was like 7 cities in China. Coming out of there into Hong Kong in 1978, Hong Kong was different then. Hong Kong coming from beautiful China, and then suddenly it's like Manhattan meets Tijuana. I don't know. We stayed in big, huge high rises, the Hilton, but everything was high rises because there's no room for anything. You can walk, you can't hardly drive in Hong Kong. There's 2 islands, one's across from the other, one's considered Hong Kong, the other is Macau or I don't know what. But anyway, it's Hong Kong. Oops, sorry, it was Hong Kong. You look out the window of the that's where I read Genesis first out of the Bible. Anyway, you look out of the Holiday Inn and there are literally like 20, 30, 50 kind of grungy housing high rises with people like hanging their drying out the window. So it was wild. And then you go to the fancy part of Hong Kong, across and over and up, and the restaurants have little menu card thingies like for cocktails or placeholders on each table, and it's a book full of hookers. Oops, I hope whatever. But anyway, escorts, and you have your choice of anyone in the booklet, like upon demand. Cute Japanese ladies in this booklet at your lunch table. Weird. Australia, we've covered whole thing on that with regard my sister Soleil. We did Tahiti on that show. We did Fiji on that show. Mexico is a place where I used to be a place my stepfather and my mother would take me to in the summer, I think 3 times, and we would only go to Ensenada. This was early me and my stepfather. Again, read the book. But you know, in Ensenada on one of those trips, I could tell he was cranky. This was the beginning of our relationship. I was very young on the first trip. I remember saying to him on the beach house that we rented once, we were at the table with my stepbrother and my stepsister. It was very complicated on my mother's side. And I said, innocently, God knows how, I must have been 8. And I said, you know that when you talk, your eyes widen, you know, kind of like with enthusiasm. And he looked at me and he said, so what? And he kept eating. So that was the beginning of that. Okay, Canada, we've touched on Canada. I did a movie with Molly Ringwald there. We went to casinos in Winnipeg, Manitoba. in 6 feet of snow. I got schnockered with half the cast in the lobby, and most of the location shooting I was hungover. But there's still me right there next to Molly Ringwald in the church getting married to Randall Batinkoff, who would not go to the restroom without his acting coach. Okay, so now we are down to the United Kingdom. United Kingdom, I started going to when I was a small child because, again, Ireland's going to require its own show because, again, my mom was born in a tiny little village in the middle of nowhere in Ireland and then shifted over to this country. Well, my mom was a lot older than people thought she was. Yeah, 1930 Ireland. So anyway, 50% Irish. Yeah, proud of it. So UK, again, lots and lots of trips to the UK vis-a-vis going to Ireland. But I talked about my summer of love, real brief aside, in the promo in the 80s, in 1981, actually. And this trip was UK. It was a part of what was a school trip of about 6 to 8 of us, maybe, yeah, 8 at the most. And we were thrust into this trip into Europe for the summer. Me, my girlfriend, my two best friends, two best friends, one a very elegant young woman, the other a very attractive young lady who I would do anything she would do anything I would do, done deal. Boom, mic drop. So we went on this trip. Again, it's involved because one of my RAPIST, believe it or not, snuck her way into this trip. I know, it was a female. Half of them males. And yes, on the female side, that's a whole nother show. Let's not go there. I was 14, 31. So there's this shuffle through Europe. Okay, so I'm not going to name them because they're still well and like close. And then these few other people. And we were 14, okay? We were 14. So UK part of that trip was King's Road back in 1981. Can you imagine King's Road, the famous King's Road, which is now like Rodeo Drive? Back then, they had like rental tables with crates selling export vinyl and thrift stores and nightclubs and sneaking out, lots of that, lots of the old Sean being the one to sneak out and good God. Now, London is also a place that I frequented with someone by the name of John Brockelmans. That I cannot get into, not for like, it's all in my book. See, it's a full chapter in my book involving this young man and I in high school. And we traveled. And it is something I can't, certain things I'm just going to have to say, like, not applicable because it's too, I have to skip a country because of what that part of my book is about. It's a great chapter, by the way. Oh my God, where was I? Okay, that's London, whatever. I was there at one point, when Boy George was nothing. He would show up in these magazines dressed in this like jumpers with all Hebrew writing on it. That was his thing, and some braids. This was 81, and I'm there, 82 maybe, and all I remember is him like in these like, not like teen mags, but just, he was like whatever. And of course the band too with him, kind of unremarkable looking. Okay, Ireland. Yikes. Ireland's lifelong. Ireland has so many insertions and interjections. I was going there with my father when I was months old. Then I went back with my mother, of course, lady from the middle of nowhere in Dundrum, Ireland. Million times with her. Then on my own. Whoa. And then John Brockelman's part, I can't get into that part, and then with my husband twice, and just so many Ireland stories. We'll have to make that a show. Now, France, that's where half the juice is, or most of it. Okay, so part of this trip, I told you about this summer trip, 14, my three besties in the whole wide world. We were all one name. If you run our names together, that's how people called us in high school, just one name all run together. So of that trip, popping around Amsterdam, London, Switzerland, so in there was France. Now, France was a big part of it because France was, on one trip, something that we had to go to only on the condition that we studied. So the summer, only for part of the summer trip, we had to do like an immersion French math. Oh my God, math almost like failed me in high school. If I didn't graduate with honors, I would have been screwed. My French wasn't that bad. So this is in a town called Annecy. It is famous for a lake. And it's beautiful, and it's the middle of France, and not too far off from Paris. And we stayed there for quite some time. So we're doing this daily studies, and then after that, this gentleman by the name of Tanju, he was a Turk, and he was our math teacher. So he was assigned the escort on this wild ass trip, man. Bike rides in friggin' Holland, and oh my God, parties in Paris at 14, sneaking. But that's the thing about Tanju, is as the trip went on, he got more and more fatigued. He didn't have staff with him. He didn't have like anyone but him. And he's dealing with me and my threebies, and then 6 other kids, excuse me. And so the point being, by the end of it, he had just given up. We just were there, and it was like he gets into his hotel room with some wine and whoever, and we have run to the city at 14. So France. So we are in this scenario where of 3 14-year-olds and running around Europe with an escort that is so tired that he leaves us run amok. And in those many countries, and within France, we went to 3 places, was Annecy. Annecy was a famous resort town, but of course it had its students and subs. So in Annecy, there's a famous lake. So we are there studying that portion of our trip. So second day in Annecy, my three besties, decide to drop acid in a pub. We're 14. And then we went to go see The Shining. Can you imagine? Okay, 14 on acid, second day in Europe, at least that country, seeing The Shining on acid. And then we frequent a pub or a cafe bar thing, whatever. So we're 14 again. We're wildly trendy and whatever. So then there's these group of these older people, in their 20s, and they start toying with our heads. They keep saying partous party. Well, the translation for that is orgy, but in a lighthearted manner. So they're coming on to this kind of in this really weird way, but then we make fast friends with them. And guess what? They have lots of hash. And there is the Festival of the Lake going on at one weekend. So now that we've made friends with them, we went to nightclubs with them on the beach of the lake and whatever. So it's Festival du Lac, which is this the most amazing fireworks you've ever seen in your life. So we all, with this group that are trying to force a partous party on us at 14 in Annecy, France, in the middle of Festival du Lac, at 14, frequenting the seaside discos, sneaking out of the hotel constantly. And so Festival du Lac is going on, and we crawl up this mountain from Annecy, which is a resort town, and crawl into the bushes and have a perfect view of Festival du Lac. The biggest fireworks you've ever seen, all in portraits and flags and making faces. Gigantic, enormous. And we're doing trumpets. Now, trumpets are when you take tobacco and then you roll hash into it, and then you piece together lots of rolling paper, and then you make a huge one with the tobacco and the hash, and then it's a giant trumpet. It looks like a giant trumpet, and then you pass the trumpet around. You do rockets. Rockets is when you put the butt end, the lit end of the trumpet in your mouth, and you blow the smoke out the other end. That's a rocket. So anyway, we are sprawled out, man, doing rockets and trumpets. And that wasn't the whole trip, you guys. I'm not like drugged out all the time. And just watching that lake, and this is our kickoff, man. And what turns into what seems like this weird like party come on orgy thingy to 14-year-olds on acid having seen The Shining 2 days walking into Europe, to be suddenly sprawled out with them on a mountain looking at the most amazing festival of fireworks over a lake, passing around rockets and trumpets, hash and tobacco, num 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 num. Not anymore, black tobacco. Anyway, let's move along from France because that's turning out to be a whole show. Yikes. So, then we are going to the Netherlands. The Netherlands I've been to twice. Twice, yeah. Now, the Netherlands, again, part of this 14-year-old trip, right? I've been there twice, though. Again, like I said, amazing, like bike rides in the countryside of the Netherlands, and oh my God, you know. But then we're in Amsterdam. Amsterdam's like the Manhattan of the Netherlands. And again, this is 1981. Okay, this is way, way a long time ago, you guys. I won't even tell you about the time that one of my besties, she realized that she had a hash pipe in her purse that we had gotten leaving Annecy from the sprawled out hash trip looking at the festival on the lake. And it was a swirly hash pipe. And we were literally going to security, like what is now like important, whatever. We're walking security. She discovers she has this hash pipe in her purse, and we have not. What are we going to do? So we shoved it further down in her purse, and we made it. We made it by. Believe it or not. And then I got on that flight, and then that freaky person that is a nightmare for me was on that flight. As I mentioned, she kind of followed scarily me to Europe and in Amsterdam, and because she was on the same plane, I am a member of the Mile High Club. Don't go there, Google it. I'm not explaining it, but I am. So now we're into Germany. I can't talk about Germany because that's all about John Brockelman's. Most of Germany is there, and I just have to skip Germany. Sorry, it's in my book. Hungary, same thing. Czechoslovakia. Now, Czechoslovakia, it was so funny because I was in Austria with a friend and my mom. And my mom, you have to be careful because we were in Czechoslovakia in 1981. This is literally when they had guys with Tommy guns on every corner, and you'd be followed to the market to make sure that you're I don't know what you're doing. So it was Prague rivals Paris, literally, in terms of architecture, unbelievable. But there's the guys on the Tommy guns on every corner with the Tommy guns. So, and I'm there for a very secret purpose that I can never get into unless big guns come out. We're there. It's gorgeous. My mom is so hoity-toity. You can't go into a communist country at that time being hoity-toity. They think you're a journalist or like, I don't know what they think you are. So she goes in, she writes on the temp visa to get into Czechoslovakia from Austria, a producer, television commercial producer, whatever. Well, no, no, none of us could go in. So I said, well, change the application around. Let's take a different picture. And literally, she had a scarf on her head. She looked like a peasant. Nothing against peasants. It's a term. And then we attached the new picture to the new application. And I said, put seamstress. Just put seamstress. And she put seamstress with the new picture, and it passed muster going through Czechoslovakian security. So we made it in. Oh my God, going to Czechoslovakia was literally a flying bus. Get into a VW van, put some wings on it with a really big stewardess that can barely stand up, and that's the flight from Czechoslovakia, from Austria to Czechoslovakia. Okay, next we're going to Switzerland. Oh boy, here we go with Switzerland. So, 2 trips to Switzerland after all these trips all over with all this craziness going on. So we get into Switzerland out of Mont Blanc, which is a giant whatever Matterhorn in France, and you go through Switzerland. It's just like you imagine little Swiss houses, Alps everywhere. So we get into Switzerland. We get into Geneva. Geneva's like oh my God, it's the fanciest, cleanest part of Switzerland, which is the fanciest, cleanest part of anything. Everything you could lick the sidewalks clean in Geneva. It's that clean. So my girlfriend knows everybody, sort of, kind of, because her dad is a famous actor and her mom is a famous movie writer. So she knows a lot of people. So me and my besties, and of course my girlfriend, almost said her name, knows Debbie Harry. So what are the friggin' odds that my besties and I, her knowing her from Hollywood, see and walk into Debbie Harry and Chris Stein on a bridge in Geneva. And Chloe's talking to her, and I'm there, and my 2 others, and we're there. I'm so stunned that I am standing in front of Debbie Harry, who's actually like vocalizing audibly on some fancy bridge in Geneva. Out of everything we've been through in Europe as 14-year-olds, and I mean, a heart-stopping moment, And my girlfriend's like chitty chatty with Debbie Harry because she knew her, and Chris Stein, and who's very quiet. And I don't know. I mean, in the middle of all that, to be standing in Geneva next to Debbie Harry with my girlfriend chatting away, I at 14, 81 in Western Europe, whoa. So, and that's only part, I mean, that doesn't even count the other part of France and everything else. So let's move along. Yikes. Where are we now? We are in Italy. Okay, Italy's equally as amazing. So you come through Mont Blanc, which is this gigantic mountain that the Matterhorn's kind of based on, and it takes a half an hour to drive through under the mountain because it's a big old tunnel. It's the only way you can get from France to Italy, basically. So we're in Italy. Northern Italy is beyond imagination. I know Rome and Sicily and Naples and all gorgeous, but Northern Italy, different. All through the north. I can't even tell you. All the way across Northern Italy to Venice. Again, Venice. I mean, I don't know what even to start. 3 14-year-olds running around Venice, Italy. So next is Turkey. So my husband and I go on a summer trip, and we hit London, Ireland. Then we go straight from Amsterdam through Frankfurt, and we end up in Greece. So we're in Amsterdam. I mean, oh my God, hello. Where are we? Oh, we're in Athens. So this is the 20th country. So we're in Athens, and we're going to see Greece, we're going to see Turkey, right? So we arrive in Athens, dig on Athens for a while, amazing, as you can imagine. Then we go on a full tour of probably, I don't know, more than 3/4 of the islands, of the Greek islands. Each one has its own story, each one has its own show. I don't know where to start with that. Stunning. Okay, now let me jump to Turkey. You have to sail through the Dardanelles, which is just this amazing, like, you feel like you're on the Nile with like deserty things on each side of it, and it's like, and I'm like in my bain de soleil moment, like on the cruise or down the Dardanelles, and it ends up in Istanbul. And then in Istanbul, we're in Istanbul, which is beyond amazing. I can't even begin there. I have a tape somewhere. I have to transfer a DVD of the whole thing in Turkey. So we're in Istanbul. As I referenced in another video, yes, my husband and I were hunting down the local bathhouse in Turkey because we had to go to a Turkish bathhouse. Come hell or high water, no matter what kind it was. And boy, did we find one. That's a whole different show. I can't. I can't with that. No, I can't. It's really cool. So then we're back in Greece. And we're in Mykonos, and I'm going to finally leave you at God knows what time, how far along we are in Mykonos. You've seen pictures of me in Mykonos in the clips on my channel. It was the only time I was buff and tan and blonde and half, you know what, running around the beach. And so is my husband, Major Hottie. And so this is the Greek part of the 20 countries that I've been to. And so we're walking on the beach. It's a nude optional beach. Then there's, of course, like Daytona Beach happening over there, party, 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 loud you could hear from Turkey. And there's that going on. That's not clothing optional, but our side is. So we're not clothing optional. It's just sort of not our style unless in real private. And so here we go. So we're walking and they're selling. People are selling things on beautiful blankets and towels and everything as you walk up to another gorgeous part of Mykonos, whatever. And so we're walking along and there's this naked guy cross-legged. So the junk is like on the blanket, basically, that he's selling this gorgeous silver jewelry on. So long story short, to end the show, which has gone on forever with these 20 countries, is we're there on that nude beach in Mykonos, in Greece, and the guy who has his junk hanging on the blanket in this nude option will be selling the most gorgeous silver jewelry. My husband picks out the most beautiful sort of Gaelic patterned ring that was positioned right next to his junk that he had to pick up and buy for me and propose to me. And there it is. That's the ring from Mykonos, from the naked guy. So I don't, oh my God, there I go, knocking it around. I don't know where else to go, you guys. It's probably 1,000,000 I ran through all 20 countries. Some of them require their own shows. Like I mentioned, I won't relist those, but I hope I lived up to your expectations, if you're watching, of scanning 20 countries in, I don't know how long I kept you, but anyway, I hope you liked it. And next show. See you tomorrow. Love you. Do everything I wouldn't do. Who cares? And okay, my besties, onward and upward and sideways and backward, and I'll be seeing you. Okay, have a good one.